Welcome back to Ceebo TV, guys, where we interview awesome people and inspire change. Today, we're going to be chatting with Paralympian Claire Cashmore. Claire was just 16 when she made a name for herself in the world of sport. Very much the underdog, she unexpectedly qualified for the Paralympic Games in Athens. Since then, her career has gone from strength to strength, and she has won just about every Paralympic swimming award possible. British champion, European champion, world champion, #1 in the world, and Paralympic champion, plus a further 3 silver and 4 bronze Paralympic medals. In 2012, Claire starred in Channel 4's epic new campaign, Meet the Superhumans, and overnight she found herself featuring on TV screens and billboards nationwide, all of which was instrumental in the 2000 Paralympic Games becoming the first ever to sell out. Wow. Claire was appointed MBE in the 2017 New Year's Honours for services to swimming, and I couldn't be more excited to chat with this amazing woman who has helped the world make such important strides in understanding disability in sport. Here's the interview. Hi Claire, thank you so much for talking to us today. How are you?
Yeah, good, no problem at all. I'm enjoying the lovely sunshine in Spain. Excuse me, I've just been for a run, so I'm very sweaty and hot, so apologies for hair scrumped back.
No problem, you are literally fitting us in between a run and a swim. Thank you very much for squeezing us in today. So I actually heard you speaking at the Family Weekend, which is run by Reach Charity once a year for its members. It was lovely to hear you talk about how sport helped you overcome some of those mental blocks you had about yourself and your own abilities and your self-confidence. Growing up, you had quite a few hang-ups about your body and having a limb difference. Can you tell us a bit about how you felt about your body at that time and what you went through?
My first memory is when I was at my swimming gala, and a little girl stood next to me and she was like, well, you can't swim, you've only got one arm, there you go round in circles. And that for me was like the real turning point of actually people believe that I can't do things. And so I was like, right, I'm going to get in that race and show her and prove her wrong. And I did actually beat her, which was pretty satisfying. So then I got into swimming and ended up going to my first Paralympics at the age of 16. Now, this for me was biggest turning point. I was super self-conscious. I would hide all the time, so I would always wear like a blazer or a jumper over my arm just to make sure that nobody knew that I was different. So I went back to my school recently, and the teacher didn't even realise that I ever had one arm, and he was my chemistry teacher who taught me for 5 years, and he never realised that I had one arm. So I did a good job of hiding it. But I suppose swimming, you're in a tiny little costume, there's no way of hiding. And so that for me changed the way I saw things. And I suppose going to the Paralympics and being involved in disability sport and seeing so many people with so many different disabilities without a care in the world about what people thought of them. And they were happy, they were confident, and they were enjoying life. And I was like, why am I so unhappy in my body? Why am I worrying about what boys might think? Why am I worrying that my friends won't like me? Why are all these things going through my head when there's so many people out there that actually have a lot more severe disabilities than me, and they don't care? So that was the point that I decided I wanted to make a change, and it was quite scary stepping outside my comfort zone and taking that sleeve off. And I soon realised that actually people didn't really care, and like the more comfortable I was, the more comfortable people seemed to be around me. It was hugely empowering, I think, to stop hiding like who I really was. It was almost like I was ashamed of having one arm. And now I'm so proud of it. I'm so proud of the fact that actually I like that I'm different. Like, it's quite cool. I can have a joke with people, and I can tell people that it was bitten off by a shark, and I can tell people all these things. Throughout our teenage years, we're constantly wanting to be a sheep, wanting to follow the crowd. We're wanting to just fit in. And, you're so self-conscious of whatever it is that makes you different. If it's a spot on your face, whatever, you don't want to be different. Whereas actually, once you get through that teenage years, you're like, do you know what? Who cares? If people don't like me for who I am, then they're really not worth knowing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you were chosen to be in Channel 4's campaign, which I think was an awesome campaign. It was called Meet the Superhumans. It just did so much for raising awareness of disabilities in general. It made the Paralympics cool. People that might not have been tuning in were suddenly really interested and keen to watch the Paralympics. I think the 2012 Paralympics were the first ever to sell out after the campaign, which is amazing. I know you've said in previous interviews that you think it's so important that people are exposed to disabilities all the time so that they can just realise that that is just normal. Is there anything you would say to people watching that they could do, whether they're affected by a difference or not, that would raise awareness and make things better in that area?
The biggest thing with disability is normalising it, and actually far too many people shy away from that. And particularly, there's been so many times where I've been in the shower at the swimming pool and there's been a kid there and they are like, mummy, look at that girl, she's whoa, and the parents are like, no, don't talk to her, oh no, shh. And I actually bypass the parents and I go to the kid and I was like, don't worry, it's absolutely fine, come and talk to me about it. What do you want to know? Do you want to see what it feels like? What is it that you're interested about? And they're like, oh, that's really cool, and then they move on.
Well, I was actually interviewed for a podcast recently, and the interviewer asked me how I'd like people to approach Harvey's hand difference. Say we were in a supermarket and their child was asking questions. I said I'd like to be approached and they could ask questions in a kind way. The interviewer said to me, well, wouldn't you feel really annoyed if people kept coming up to you and asking you about your arm or your hand all the time? Switch that around to you and ask you how you would feel if, parents are watching who aren't affected by differences but want to do the right thing in that situation.
Yeah, I think unless the parent can give, the explanation themselves and kind of explain that, this might be from birth, it might be from a lot, an injury or an accident or something like that. I think it's kind of our duty and kind of our role to be able to, until we get to a society where, people don't need to ask questions anymore because they understand it. But I think, especially when it's kids, they are so curious and they just want to know, and they get so bored so quickly that it doesn't faze them. And often kids that have the issues with it is because their parents do. It's because their parents are quite ignorant and they're the ones that are freaked out by the whole thing. So it's kind of, we actually almost need to educate the older generation to have an effect on the younger generation coming through. We mentioned the Superhumans campaign and how much things have changed, and it's huge, it's massive. When people come and ask me, able-bodied kids, and they say, I want to become a superhuman, and you're like, but you've got no disability, and they think it's super cool. They're like, but you've got all these robotic arms and these legs, and they like that. And yeah. Isn't that amazing that we're getting to that stage where, their role models are becoming people with a disability?
Yeah, and we're definitely making such amazing steps forward in terms of raising awareness about differences and getting rid of the stigma and the walls and breaking down the barriers. Fashion and TV, just the media in general is just opening up much more. And I think, that Superhumans campaign, I read somewhere that about 14% of people before the Paralympics started, before the campaign released, were interested in watching it. And after the Superhumans campaign, about something like 69% of people said they thought the Paralympics was as cool and as interesting as the regular Olympics. And I just thought, wow, that's like a phenomenal increase in such a short space of time.
The negative side of it is actually, some people are like, well, that's unattainable for me. I'm never going to become a Paralympian. I'm never going to become a superhuman. And they almost then find it a negative thing. And that's some of the research that's come out recently. But that's not what it's about. It's just about being able to push yourself to your limit and actually do your own personal best and be the best that you can be, and not comparing yourself. But it's just showing that actually we can achieve things. And yes, you have to go a slightly different way around it and you have to find a different route for it, but you don't have to kind of sit there and feel sorry for yourself. You can get up and you can do physical activity. So I think that's one of the big things, is it's not just for the next future Paralympian or whatever else. It's for everybody, and trying to just get everybody active.
Yes, and when it comes down to it, just believe in yourself. Don't let other people tell you what you can and can't do. Go out and try it. If you fall down, get back up again and try again, like anyone, and don't let having a difference hold you back and make you feel like you can't. Just go out and try and believe in yourself, because I think that's the key, isn't it?
I've definitely got a mentality of constantly wanting to prove people wrong, and there's been so many setbacks through my life, but it's been like I've used that as the fire to push me on. I've got a huge amount to thank my parents for that. The way they brought me up and treated me like my two older sisters who don't have a disability, and they just kind of, it sounds really horrible, but they watched me struggle. They watched me do things that I couldn't do and just had to keep watching me struggle until I could do it. And Because if they always jumped in and did it for me, then I probably would have taken the easy route in life and been like, well, okay, I can't do these things, so I'll let somebody else do it. Whereas actually, I always found a way, and I learned to tie my shoelaces quicker than my sisters because I was so blooming determined to do it that I was like, yes, I'm going to find a way. I was finding ways to do monkey bars and things like that. Doing up my zip. So I think it's parents' attitude has a huge impact on your own attitude and the way you grew up, and wanting to prove people wrong and wanting to, get back up when you do fail.
I think there will be a lot of parents watching who have children with differences, and they haven't got to that stage yet where their child's old enough to have come home and said, oh, so-and-so said that something's wrong with this, or my arm's not right, or whatever it is. And I think as parents to those children, we probably play that event over in our heads like a million times, thinking, what will we say? I want to say the right thing. Coming from someone on the other side of the fence, who I'm sure had comments and things thrown at them about their difference. How would you say parents should respond to that?
It's a really good point, and actually it's something that I can't really remember. And it's funny, actually, from being to the Reach events, I kind of have never really asked my parents if they struggled through having me with a disability, and growing up. And you kind of, sometimes in my response I go to parents, I'm like, oh, well, it's fine, we're all right, I turned out fine. But I don't realise what you guys go through, and I don't realise that actually it's probably just as tough for you lot. It's almost going into school or going into people and trying to educate them and trying to do it in a way that doesn't draw a huge amount of attention. But almost like turning it back on the children that might have been doing the bullying. Like, how would you feel if, I said, well, your face makes me feel sick? Because that's the kind of comments you'll get, your arm makes me feel really sick. Well, great, thank you. That's a bit of my body. So how would you feel if I said that to you? And I've said that before to kids. When they've said it to me as I've grown up, I said, well, how would you feel if I said that to you? And they're like, oh, that's quite horrible, isn't it? And I'm like, yeah, exactly. And this is a part of me.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's a really tricky question, and it's something that I would actually quite like to ask my parents.
How are your parents in those situations?
I thank my parents so much for how they did bring me up, and not putting barriers in the way and not mollycoddling me, and just kind of letting me be me and just making me feel confident in who I am. And I can imagine it was hard when I felt super self-conscious, and whether they knew how bad it was, whether they knew how insecure I was, I don't know, because I think I probably hid it quite well. I'm quite a bubbly kind of character, and whether I actually showed them how much I was struggling, I don't know. But one thing, sorry, this is completely unrelated, but the biggest thing I found actually that really helped me is having those friends that had one arm. So there's a girl called Kate Gray who I used to swim with, and we used to share a room when we went away on swimming competitions. So we would just talk till 1 time in the morning about all our struggles and all the things that nobody else understood. I couldn't talk to my friends who had 2 arms and 2 legs, because they would try and pretend to understand, but they didn't. They never got it. And that's the real beauty of Reach, is you've got that network of people there that are going through the exact same things as you.
No, that's really interesting, because as a mum to Harvey, I want him to have that network and that community of other people with limb differences, so he doesn't feel alone and he can talk to people that truly understand how it feels. But on the other hand, I don't want him to feel I'm building up this big kind of community of friends that all have a difference like him, and he must be friends with them. But it's nice to hear that you found that beneficial, and that it's just good that he has the option as he grows up to talk to other people who are in the same sort of situation as him. So before we finish our amazing interview today, I would like to ask you, if there's somebody watching who has a difference of any kind, not just a limb difference or a visible difference, any kind of difference that makes them feel self-conscious, what one piece of advice would you give them?
That's a really hard question. One thing that they could do. I think it's learning what it is that gives you that confidence, trying to find those areas in your life where you can feel confident in something that you're good at, and then trying to bring that into other areas. And if it is that you're hiding that disability and not being you, can you do it in kind of a stepping stone process? So you maybe get your arm out when you're in a place where you feel really safe, and then you just keep stepping into different environments where maybe you feel slightly less out of your comfort zone, and get your disability on show. You know, everybody in this world is different in some sort of way, and we should be proud of that and kind of embrace the difference and actually use it, have fun with it, you know, play jokes, do whatever it is that, you know, will make it seem more normalized to other people. Yeah, and I think people really don't care that much. People are really not that bothered, and that's the thing. You almost become so self-absorbed in this like kind of world where you think, oh my gosh, everybody's looking at me, everybody, you know, I'm so insecure about this, and you get in a bit of a rut. One of my biggest worries was not ever being able to get a boyfriend. I thought, oh, nobody's gonna ever love me because I'm different, I've got one arm. Really felt sorry for myself, you know, get the violins out. But actually, nobody was gonna love me because I couldn't love myself. You know, if you can't love yourself, then how can anybody else fall in love with you? So as soon as I kind of rebuilt that confidence, you notice the impact it has on like all your friends around you, and you know, the boys, girls, whatever it is that, you know, you might want to have a relationship with. So I think love yourself.
Love yourself. I think that's a great thing to take away. Well, thank you so much for speaking with us today. I know you've got to get off to your swim. How many hours of training are you doing today?
It's probably going to only be an hour because the pool, the sea is about 15 degrees, so it's absolutely freezing. So it depends on how long I last. I'm not particularly excited about it. No, Sunday's a slightly easier day, so we long run this morning and then swim this afternoon.
Yeah, in your mind it's an easier day. In my world, going for a run and a swim on the same day is like, wow, look at me, you make me look bad, Claire. Well, we wish you the very best with all of your training. We'll all be rooting for you. Thank you so much, best of luck with it, and have an amazing day.
Bye.
Thank you so much to Claire for talking to us on the go. I know the quality of the call wasn't great this time, but sometimes you just got to roll with it. As always, please subscribe, like, share, follow, and if there's anything in particular that you would like to hear about, please comment below and let me know. Until next time, guys.